I think Sweden and India is very well positioned. Both countries have such a good, well-developed educational system that really supports this in so many aspects. So I think both countries are well positioned. I also think that working more with India, there is so much more commonalities than differences. And to give just some things that we built our collaborations with our Indian companies very much in, is of course the innovative climate, long-term perspectives on sustainability and social responsibility. And that's just some aspects of what I think is some corner pillars in both countries and the different companies in the countries that really we can build on much more going forward. Some considerations from my side in this very more and more complex and interactive world. We are starting to talk about the virtual world and physical world and a hybrid world, how these meets. And I already see a lot of huge opportunities, but also some risks. One thing that I think we consider, and that really Saab and Sweden can build more on, is IT information security. And I strongly believe that in all cross-functional R&D dimensions, we also need to build in the security aspect of it. I think that if we don't do that, we will increase the vulnerabilities for countries, organizations, and individuals. Because I've seen so much scary things what someone who has not ill-willing thoughts can do in the digital world and how they can interact. And if we have autonomous cars, drones everywhere, if we don't keep that in a safe way, it could have some bad impacts. But here again, I think Sweden and India has a lot of companies and technologies that could really be utilized. But I think we really need to get into much more on education, collaboration, and get security as a part of the whole thing.
Mats, let's get back to that
discussion.
Yeah, great, thanks.
Thanks.
Have a seat. So great, I think this is like the perfect combination to have in the sofa. We have like startup entrepreneur and we have like a big business. So let's start with the startup entrepreneur. I think Truecaller, I mean, also a perfect combination of India, which is like a big market for you, and Sweden. I mean, you guys built a unicorn. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you find, what's like the best combination of Sweden and India, do you think, from your perspective?
Well, you know, it's a good question. There is, for many years, there's been a great collaboration between Sweden and India. And Sweden is in somewhere, you know, if you go to many parts of the world and you say that you're from Sweden, people don't know where that is. Usually they confuse it with cheese and Switzerland. But in India, most people actually know about Sweden. And we relocate a lot of people, smart engineers from India to Stockholm as well. And that is, you know, thanks to the great healthcare system we have and all the benefits, it's much easier.
How come they heard of Sweden?
Well, there has been some scandals in the past, but there are Ericsson has definitely had a huge impact on the infrastructure. There's a lot of people within the IT sector, you know, the younger generation where their parents might work or used to work at Ericsson. So you know, that's usually what I see a lot. Yeah. So I actually get surprised pretty often how many people that has actually been to, not Stockholm, but Kista. So, yeah.
So there's a big knowledge of Sweden and India, and that's a good start.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it creates a lot of trust, especially when you do business, because, you know, there's a lot of countries trying to do business with different Indian companies or governments, and it's definitely a benefit being from Sweden.
All right. So how do you view, what's your perspective, Mats, from your sort of big company angle?
On the collaborations side?
Yeah, between India and Sweden, what's like the biggest possibilities and also challenges?
I think from a possibility perspective, I see so much of an innovative culture that can integrate it, achieve so much more. there's so many companies that really, if they get to know each other more, can achieve very much. And I think there's a lot of educational people. From Swedish side, one thing that I think is starting to get the problem for me is getting the right skills. We are not getting out of skills in the areas we need, and there I hope India could be a good partner in helping us with providing more skills in R&D and innovation.
There's not enough people in Sweden.
No.
No. And what are, and if you look at the challenges of combining Sweden and India, what are the main challenges?
Of course, there is distance and cultural things that needs to be addressed. I think that's not the problem. It's just something to consider and work with. So I think there is certainly opportunities. You just need to get the teams together. Even if the virtual world helps you a lot, you need to physically meet. And I also think that more Swedish company needs to be local present with local employed in India and the other way around. A lot of the Indian companies needs to be even more locally present with people in Sweden.
All right. So what do you think, Alan, from your perspective, what's the main challenges to make this happen? To build some more true callers?
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, there aren't actually that many challenges from, as far as I know, or has experienced. I guess the biggest sort of obstacle is the traveling distance, which is now fixed because there is a direct flight to Delhi from Stockholm.
Oh yeah. So we fixed it today.
Yeah, we fixed it today.
Yesterday. Great.
So that's we're saving a lot of time. That's for sure, and it's easier for us to travel our employees from India to Stockholm as well, because we do that a lot, and it's actually affordable as well.
Yeah. But what about the cultural differences? I mean, there are some differences. I've been to India like maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and that was fascinating, but also chaotic and quite strange for me as a Swede.
Yeah, I mean, sure, there are some cultural differences, but in the IT sector, everyone are computer geeks, and we have the same sort of
you have the same culture.
Yeah, we have the same culture, and in the end, what's most important is the company culture that you create. Yeah. And that is the biggest challenge always, which is why it's great to fly people to Stockholm, or people from Stockholm to fly to India. You know, some of our engineers travel once or twice a month, just to sort of share the cultural values that we have.
Yeah. What about you, Mats? Do you see anything about the cultural differences?
I agree with Alan, and we have a lot of joint teams working on R&D and development, and I think that in every team you need to work physically together, learn a bit about each other outside the task that you're performing. If you do that, in this you also sort of build bridges over the cultural differences in ways of working and interacting. So just as you team build, that's for me the thing to do.
Have you been living and working in India?
No, I never been living there. Only traveling, commuting, and staying some weeks, months. So.
All right. So let's talk a bit about different areas, and where do you see, like you're in the IT sector and you're talking about security, where do you see like the biggest possibilities in which areas if you sort of combine India and Sweden? Mats?
Oh, there are so many areas to choose from. Personally, I see R&D innovation and combined with security, providing sustainable solutions. I think we have a lot of companies that are doing R&D and innovation and thinking in that way. So I think there's a lot of synergies, and one and one can turn to 3 in that area.
All right. And Alan, when you're going to start your next company, which areas is that going to be?
Sorry, which?
When you're starting your next company.
When?
No, I'm just kidding. but if you were to start a new company, where would that be? In what area?
No, it's IT, of course. That's my field. I would do the same thing that we have done today, like start the organization from Stockholm. I would definitely focus on India as a market, as we do today, because it's so exciting to see, the growth that is happening that you don't see anywhere else in the world. And I think what Mats is touching on, IT security, is a very important. It's a very important theme, because just like any industry, or the IT industry is moving so fast And the first mover's advantage is so important that people tend to forget about security. You know, just look at Aadhaar, which is the digital identity platform that the government built. There was a leak recently where, you know, or a billion billion people's data were leaked out because they didn't focus on security. And in some aspect, they might lack some experience around security as well. And this is where I think Sweden has a lot to contribute on.
Yeah. Do you see any? Like obstacles from the more like a governmental or regulatory perspective on combining Sweden and India, like in business-wise? Are there things to do or that has to be done? Or?
I think there is things that has to be done. I think we need to have a much more governmental collaboration, and also that could be in finding joint system, building trust, because I think that doing joint R&D, joint innovation, you need to create even more trust than traditional outsourcing, offshoring, which I think robots will take over more and more the traditional outsourcing business.
Yeah.
So I think creating more trust and really working together on policy making and laws and things like that. I think the governments could do more in that area.
Okay. What do you think, Alan? Do you see anything of that kind in your business? Or?
Well, so far, it's what has been great is that the government has been very open to let innovation happen, and they haven't really restricted things. But we're definitely, I mean, right now the government is working on a lot of data privacy laws, just like Europe is doing for next year. So I think this is, when it comes to data privacy, this is something that we'll see much more of next year. And what is great is that the government is very approachable, and that you can work with them to find great solutions that in the end benefits the end consumer.
Right.